If you've ever worked under someone who made your life miserable, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned because what started as daily torment turned into one of the most satisfying takedowns in office history. I still remember that morning vividly. My shirt was pressed, my resume tucked neatly into a leather-bound folder. I was 27, fresh off a grueling 6-month job hunt, and ready to give my all. Smith and Company wasn't just another corporate gig, it was the job I thought would launch my career. And walking into that sleek lobby for the first time, I felt like I belonged. Bright lights, floor-to-ceiling windows, a receptionist with a voice like velvet, and a practiced smile. Everything screamed, "You made it." But nothing could have prepared me for what waited on the 9th floor. That was where I met him. Mr. Thompson. The name itself felt sharp cold. His handshake? Limp. His eyes? Calculating. He looked me up and down like I was a defective product he didn't order. "You're the new analyst?" he asked, his voice clipped. I nodded, eager. "Yes, sir. Excited to be here." He muttered. No smile. No welcome. Just turned and walked off, expecting me to follow. That was my first red flag. If I had known that Mr. Thompson was going to be the source of some of the darkest moments in my professional life, maybe I would have turned around then. Maybe I would have faked a phone call and walked right out the door. But hindsight is a cruel teacher. Over the next few weeks, I saw just how skilled Thompson was at wielding power like a weapon. He didn't yell immediately. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, he chipped away, slowly, surgically. My first week, I handed him a report I'd spent 2 nights perfecting. He scanned it for 2 seconds, then tossed it on his desk. "This is amateur work," he said. "Are you sure you're qualified to be here?" I remember the silence that followed. My cheeks flushed hot. My hands started to sweat. The others in the room stared at their laptops, pretending not to notice. But they noticed. That moment? It was just the beginning. Over time, I learned that I wasn't the only one. Far from it. Everyone on our floor operated in a constant state of anxiety. It was like we were all extras in some sadistic corporate horror film, waiting for our scene to come. Morning meetings were like public executions. Thompson would pick someone, anyone, and spend 15 minutes tearing apart their work, their logic, sometimes even their personality. "Your voice is grating, can someone else present? You're dressed like you just rolled out of bed. I can't believe someone as clueless as you was hired." These weren't one-offs. This was daily. And HR? They did nothing. Thompson had results. Profits under his leadership were up. To them, he was demanding, not abusive. But behind closed doors, we were all unraveling. I started waking up with a pit in my stomach. Every single day, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, bargaining with myself. Just make it through today. Just don't cry at work. Just don't give him a reason. But it didn't matter how hard I tried. I stayed late, double-checked everything, even shadowed senior analysts to improve. But no matter what I did, Thompson found something to crush. I remember one day, I skipped lunch to rework a financial model he said looked like it was built by a high schooler. After 8 straight hours of editing, I handed him the revision. He didn't even look up. Just muttered, "Still wrong. Fix it again." No explanation. No guidance. Just rejection. I went to the bathroom and sat in the last stall, my head in my hands. My chest felt tight. My eyes stung. I wasn't just tired, I was losing pieces of myself. The moment everything changed came 3 months in. It was 9:06 a.m. on a Tuesday. Thompson stormed into the bullpen, slammed a folder on my desk, and shouted loud enough for the whole floor to hear. "Did you even read this report? Or are you just stupid?" I froze. People turned. Someone actually gasped. And in that moment, something broke. Not in a falling apart kind of way. No. Something snapped into place. I looked him dead in the eyes and said quietly, "I'd like to speak with HR." His smirk faltered, just for a second. Then he laughed. "Go ahead," he said. "See how far that gets you." He walked off, but I just sat there, breathing. Steady. Calm. Because in that moment, I realized he thought he was invincible. But no tyrant lasts forever. And I was done being afraid. After that blow-up in the bullpen, I didn't go straight to HR. Not yet. I needed a plan. I went back to my desk, hands still shaking but brain on fire. I stared at my monitor, pretending to work. But inside, I was strategizing. If I filed a complaint alone, it would vanish into the void. Just another emotional employee who couldn't handle the heat. Thompson had weathered complaints before. He knew how to spin things. How to vary his behavior under a stack of spreadsheets and glowing quarterly reports. But if I could build a case, a real one, backed by patterns, data, witnesses, he wouldn't see it coming. So I opened a private folder titled The Thompson File. That afternoon, I started documenting. Every insult, every tantrum, every time he forgot to CC someone important just to make them look incompetent, I wrote it down. I started small. Dates. Times. Verbatim quotes. When Thompson reamed me out for using Arial instead of Calibri in a deck, I logged it. When he made Lauren cry during her quarterly review and said, "Well, if you want to be treated like a man, toughen up," I logged it. When he threw a dry erase marker at Tyler in a strategy meeting, logged. And slowly, patterns emerged. Same targets. Same behaviors. Same tactics. And I wasn't the only one watching. It was 2 weeks later when Tyler, the quiet guy from operations, came to my desk. He hovered for a minute, shifting his weight. "Hey," he finally muttered, eyes flicking to the door. "I heard what happened with Thompson. That was rough." I nodded. "Yeah, it's been a long time coming." He leaned in, voice lower. "You keeping track?" I hesitated, then nodded again. His shoulders dropped in relief. "Good. Keep going." He slid a flash drive onto my desk and walked off. That flash drive? It held months of meeting recordings. Audio files where Thompson called employees dead weight, replaceable, and once human error dressed in khakis. I listened to every single one. At home. At night. Teeth clenched, heart pounding. He was worse than I thought. Word got around. Quietly. In break rooms. During elevator rides. Slack DMs with snake emojis. By the end of the month, I had 6 people feeding me information. Lauren, the marketing wizard who had almost quit last year. Marcus from IT, who said Thompson had once threatened to blacklist him in the industry. Even Priya, the new intern, shared a story about being told to wear something less distracting next time. It was like peeling back the wallpaper in a beautiful house and finding rot beneath. Some people were scared. Understandably. Others were angry. But all of us? We were tired. So we created an encrypted Google Drive. Each of us added what we had: emails, Slack screenshots, time-stamped videos, even printed documentation. We called the folder Operation Anvil. Because when this dropped, it would hit like one. I kept my head down at work, but I was hyper-aware of everything. Every time Thompson looked at me, I felt it, his suspicion growing. He wasn't stupid. He could sense a shift. He started getting nastier. Testing limits. In a team meeting, he mocked a presentation I'd worked all weekend on, called it the PowerPoint equivalent of a wet fart. People laughed nervously, but not like before. Not with him, at him. The tide was turning. He saw it too. And it made him sloppy. He started keeping people late without reason. Scrutinizing every second of our lunch breaks. Once, he even had Marcus stay until 11 p.m. just to reprint labels in a different font. We logged everything. 3 of us decided to test the waters. We went to HR, separately, days apart, with vague concerns. No accusations yet. Just poking the bear. The HR rep, Sandy, gave the same rehearsed line every time. "Thank you for coming forward. We'll look into it." But nothing changed. Not even a follow-up. I wasn't surprised. HR didn't work for the employees. They protected the company. And Thompson? He was their rainmaker. Until we could make him a liability, they'd never touch him. That's when we knew this had to be a coordinated hit. It was Lauren who cracked the code. She remembered that during her exit interview a year prior, before she got pulled back in with a promotion, she was told that formal investigations required at least 5 consistent, corroborated complaints within a 30-day period. That became our mission. We created a shared template: incident description, date, time, witnesses, documentation. Every person had to submit 5 entries, real, verifiable, time-stamped. We had 11 people. That's 55 formal complaints. Across every department Thompson touched. We timed it perfectly. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, 2:13 p.m., HR's inbox lit up. 55 complaint forms, 3 audio files, 1 video, and a letter signed by 11 current employees. Subject line: formal request for disciplinary review. Martin Thompson, Regional Director. We waited. Seconds felt like hours. Minutes like weeks. At 2:27 p.m., HR replied, "We take these matters seriously. An internal investigation will be launched immediately." By 3 p.m., Thompson had been pulled into a closed-door meeting. By 3:30, he returned, livid, silent, red-faced. He slammed his office door so hard a picture frame fell off his wall. And just like that, we knew it had worked. The anvil had dropped. The day after we submitted the complaints, the office felt different, quieter, like the building itself was holding its breath. Thompson didn't come in until nearly 10 a.m., late for him. He walked past the bullpen without his usual smugness. No sarcastic comments. No barking orders. His eyes scanned the room like a man checking for landmines. And for once, he was the one on edge. It was poetic, really. The man who used to thrive on making others uncomfortable was now a shadow of his former self. His collar loose, jaw clenched. That signature air of superiority? Gone. We kept working, heads down. But every click of the mouse, every exchanged glance carried a current of electricity. We were waiting for the explosion. Over the next 2 weeks, HR played their cards close to the chest. We were individually called in one by one to give verbal statements. I was third. Sandy, the HR rep, sat across from me with a legal pad and a neutral face. Her tone was calm, but clinical. "This is being documented. Everything you share is protected by confidentiality." I nodded, heart thumping. I shared everything calmly, factually, no embellishment. I handed over time-stamped emails, video clips, a flash drive with audio. At the end, I said, "I don't want to destroy anyone. I just want to be able to do my job without fear." She looked up at me for a moment, really looked, and just nodded. "I understand." By week 3, Thompson was unraveling. He stopped attending meetings, locked his office door for hours at a time, barked at the receptionist for being too cheerful. He even canceled a quarterly strategy session, something he'd never done. But the cracks truly began to show the day he exploded on a janitor. It was around 6 p.m. Most people had gone home. I stayed late with Tyler to run numbers for a quarterly forecast. That's when we heard the shouting. Thompson's voice booming, uncontrolled. Something about paper towels and basic competency. We peered into the hallway. There he was, red-faced, inches away from an elderly janitor who looked terrified. Tyler whipped out his phone and hit record. That video? The final nail. The HR call came the next day at 8:02 a.m. A company-wide email. Martin Thompson has been placed on indefinite leave pending investigation. Effective immediately, he will not return to the office or communicate with staff. All inquiries should be directed to HR. The office erupted not out loud, but in energy. Slack DMs flew. Eyes widened over coffee mugs. Smiles, real ones, appeared for the first time in months. But it wasn't over yet. We had a front row seat to the collapse. The following week, we were each called in one final time. This time, there were 2 HR reps and a legal advisor. They showed us the compiled report, a 62-page document chronicling every incident, statement, and piece of evidence. It was brutal and airtight. Then came the final question. Do you believe Mr. Thompson's continued employment would create a hostile work environment? Every single one of us said yes. That Friday, at exactly 4:45 p.m., we got the email. Subject line, personnel update. Effective immediately, Martin Thompson is no longer employed by Smith & Company. No fanfare. No goodbye party. Just gone. But the best part? I was still at the office when it happened. Thompson returned to clean out his desk, escorted by HR and security. He looked smaller somehow. Hollow. No eye contact. No snide remarks. Just silence. He packed up 2 cardboard boxes. One of them ripped halfway through, spilling a stack of red-marked reports onto the carpet. No one offered to help. Not a word was spoken. As he walked out, the entire floor paused. He stopped at the elevator, hit the button, waited, and in that surreal silence, someone started clapping. Then another, and another, until half the floor, hell, maybe more, was applauding. Not mockingly, not cruelly, but as if we were finally free. The doors closed behind him. He never came back. I didn't cry that day. I thought I would. But what I felt was deeper. Heavier. It was like walking out of a toxic relationship you'd convinced yourself was your fault. I sat at my desk, hands in my lap, heart still. Then Lauren walked by, grinned, and dropped a post-it note onto my keyboard. It said, "You did it." And under it, "We did it." The months that followed were nothing short of a rebirth. Leadership brought in a new director, Sandra Lee, a seasoned pro with a reputation for transparency and empathy. She made one thing clear on day one. A good team doesn't operate under fear. It operates under trust. That starts today. The vibe changed instantly. People spoke up, joked, brainstormed without flinching. The office was no longer a battlefield, it was a community. And me? I was promoted to lead analyst within 3 months. But more than the title, I had something I never thought I'd get back. Pride. Sometimes I look back and wonder how I survived those first few months. There were nights I questioned everything. Wondered if I was too sensitive, too weak. But now I know it wasn't weakness. It was humanity. And standing up, not just for myself, but for the people around me, that was the strongest thing I've ever done. We didn't just fire a bad boss. We reclaimed our dignity. And that's revenge worth fighting for. The Monday after Thompson's termination, the office felt lighter. Not in the everyone's gossiping kind of way. It was more subtle, more spiritual. For months, we'd walked on eggshells. Now we walked on air. I could finally breathe. Deep, slow, safe breaths. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't dread opening my inbox. I didn't flinch when someone said, "Can I talk to you real quick?" I didn't wake up in the middle of the night rehearsing fake apologies for things that weren't my fault. The tyrant was gone. But healing? That was just beginning. Our new director, Sandra Lee, didn't waste time. Her first week, she held one-on-one meetings with every employee, no agenda, no pressure. Just real conversations. When she got to me, I was honest. I told her about the anxiety, the fear, the mental toll Thompson had taken, not just on me, but on the entire floor. She didn't interrupt, just listened. Then she said something I'll never forget. A toxic leader's greatest weapon is silence. Thank you for breaking it. She implemented open-door policies, anonymous feedback tools, regular check-ins with HR, not after something went wrong, but before. Within 2 months, our turnover rate dropped by half. Productivity actually increased. People started offering ideas in meetings, sharing wins, taking real lunch breaks together. The office felt human again. One afternoon, Tyler came to my desk holding 2 coffee cups. He handed me one and sat down. "Guess what?" he said. "I've been sleeping again." He chuckled, but it wasn't a joke. He meant it. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten until it stopped. I knew exactly what he meant. Lauren told me she'd canceled her therapy subscription. She didn't need the weekly vent sessions anymore. Marcus from IT started organizing game nights after work. People showed up. And me? I stopped clenching my jaw in my sleep. I stopped second-guessing every email. I started walking a little taller. I even reconnected with old friends I'd pushed away when work was consuming my sanity. The ghost of Thompson still haunted certain corners, like the break room where he once cornered an intern for forgetting a name in a report, but the fear that once lingered there was slowly being replaced with laughter, collaboration, normalcy. 3 months later, Sandra called me into her office. I wasn't nervous, not like before. She offered me a promotion. Senior analyst. Team lead. She said, "You've got leadership written all over you. The way you held your ground, built a movement, documented everything with discipline and care. That's not just professionalism. That's vision." I accepted, but not just for the title or the raise. I wanted to protect the culture we had fought to build. I wanted to be the kind of leader I needed when I first walked through those doors. 6 months later, a new intern joined our team. Her name was Sophie, bright, driven, a little nervous. On her first day, she sat at my desk during onboarding and said, "I heard this department used to be rough, but everyone says it's amazing now." I smiled. It is now. She didn't need to know the war we'd fought. Not all of it, but she would reap the benefits. And that was the point. Because the legacy of standing up isn't in the story you tell, it's in the space you leave behind. A space where people feel safe, heard, empowered. A space that says, "You matter here." It was almost a year later when I ran into him. I was at a corporate conference. Big hotel ballroom, round tables, networking badges. He looked older, smaller. He was with a tiny consulting firm now, nothing major. Our eyes met for half a second. He gave me a curt nod. I returned it. And that was it. No drama. No final confrontation. Just closure. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better. I had peace. If you're listening to this and stuck under someone like Thompson, I want you to know something. You're not weak. You're not alone. And you are not the problem. Toxic people thrive on silence, isolation, shame. But those things only have power when we let them grow. You don't have to start a revolution alone. Sometimes all it takes is one voice saying, "This isn't okay." And others will follow. That's what happened to me. I thought I was the only one hurting. But it turned out I was the first domino. And together, we rebuilt an entire system. Now, every time I lead a meeting or give feedback or onboard a new hire, I think about the person I used to be. The one who sat in a bathroom stall, too afraid to speak. The one who thought a paycheck was worth being broken. And I lead with the promise that no one on my team will ever feel that way under my watch. Because leadership isn't about control. It's about care. If this story gave you chills or reminded you of a workplace you escaped, smash that like button and share your own experience in the comments. What's the most satisfying moment of justice you've ever seen? And of course, subscribe for more powerful, real-life revenge stories just like this one.